Arnold.
All right, welcome to the Dean Arnold Podcast. It is July 31st, and we are finishing the last day of the month of July, which is good. I've been doing this now for 2 months. This will be the last day of 2 months straight every day. I'm running for Congress. Vote for me. Give them my campaign, DeanArnoldForCongress.com. I got a third donation yesterday. So I have gotten 3. I think I got a 4th coming. So we're starting to raise the money, and it should be a good time. There's an election next week, Thursday, August 6th. I suggest you vote me in for Republican nominee for Congress. I'm not running as a Republican. I'm running as an independent. So that election is not till November 3rd, but you can still vote for me on November 3rd if you write me in on August 6th, the Dean Arnold. That'd be great. Okay. Today is going to be an important show. We continue to be intense. We lightened it up Wednesday, 2 days ago with The Sound of Music, thank God, because the Monday was the most difficult verse in the Bible, which I will not rehash because it's too intense. But today we're going to get intense again. We're going to talk about human sacrifice. Pre-Columbus human sacrifice. What they didn't teach you in school and they didn't teach you in the textbooks, but North America, or the Americas in general, were just rampant with an epidemic of human sacrifice. Millions of people being sacrificed to appease their gods. And the Christian Spanish crown came over here and ended it. Oh, what do you know? The white European Christians actually come over here and did some things to make it better over here. Yeah, you hadn't heard that one, have you? Well, we need to hear more of it. But that's what we're going to talk about today, and it's going to be good that we do. So hang on to your hat as we move forward with learning things you didn't know. What was there's an old quote that I always liked. There's nothing new in the world today except the history that you don't know about yet. Well, there's going to be something new for you. News. This will be good news. The news is, guess what? The white Christians from Europe actually really helped the Native Americans. Yeah, you hadn't heard that one yet? Well, that's news. It's not really today's news. It's the half millennium news or millennium news. But okay, I digress. Scripture of the day. If you recall, Western civilization was built on the Bible. The Bible was built on the lectionary, which is the first 2 or 3 centuries. The church was, picking which books from which apostles or whoever would be read in the services. And it was from what books they decided to read in the services that they would pick what books go in the Bible. That's the lectionary. And that's what we do every day because we are cutting edge. So let's start with 1 Corinthians. We've been in 1 Corinthians here for a while, and the last couple of passages have been about speaking in tongues. And this passage at the end of 1 Corinthians 14 also talks about speaking in tongues. So I'm going to kind of skip that because we've sort of covered it. Although I will mention the last couple of verses. Therefore, brethren, desire earnestly to prophesy, which is to speak in the known language of whoever you're talking to, and do not forbid to speak with tongues. Let all things be done decently and in order. I agree with that. Don't forbid speaking in tongues. And I don't think the Orthodox Church does. You just don't see it that much. But the key thing is what Paul has been saying all along. Let all things be done decently and in order. We don't want all this chaos and nuttery. We want sanity, not an insane world. And so that's Paul's main point. Let all things be done decently in order, which is why a few verses earlier he says, okay, brace yourselves. Here we go. Excuse me. Verse 33, forgot. Darn it. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all the churches of the saints. 34. You like that? Well, see if you like this. Let your women keep silent in the churches. He didn't want confusion. He wants peace. Let your women keep silent in the churches, for they are not permitted to speak. They're to be submissive, as the law also says. I'm not sure where in the Old Testament law it talks about that. I guess it's sort of implied in all sorts of places. Verse 35, and if they want to learn something, let them ask their own husbands at home, for it is shameful for women to speak in church. Oh, just good old lighthearted New Testament lectionary epistle on the church calendar of the day stuff that we're dealing with here. But, we talked about this, I guess, last week or something. But what we're getting into is we just need to go back to the natural order, which traditional mankind understood for thousands of years. And then the last 100 or 200 years, it's gotten kind of insane, and it's gotten maniacal, and it's gotten way goofy, and it's turned into a disaster where women don't have a protector like they should have, and they find themselves having an abortion or two in their teens, and they find themselves getting divorced several times because the laws don't support marriage. And it's gotten insane. And we've got to do something. Somebody's got to step up, man up, and say, this ain't working. We've got to do something different. And this thing of women being in charge ain't working. And Paul says it. Paul manned up. And I'm going to man up. It actually says it's shameful for women to speak in church. What do you think about that? That's pretty intense, isn't it? Well, I think most women with a good heart and a submissive attitude and a fear of God understand this in their heart, and they don't chafe against it like the manic liberal nutcase women do, who believe that abortion is a sacrament and bring the abortion trailer to the Democrat convention so that they can have abortions there while the speakers for president speak on the stage. Those kind of maniacs, they don't like these verses, but I think your average God-fearing woman understands it. And we've just got to do it. Just got to take our medicine. It's kind of like getting spanked when you're 2 years old. You don't like it, but later on you appreciate it if you're sane. And we've gone insane in that aspect as well. That's another podcast. We'll get there, I think. I actually think we will. Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay. So much for that scripture of the day. Gospel of the day, Matthew 21. Jesus goes into the temple, and he turns over all the changing tables where they're trying to make money off animal sacrifices. Calls the place, instead of a house of prayer, it's a den of thieves. And then after all that, they're headed back to Bethany to go spend the night with his friends Martha and Mary and Lazarus. By the way, today is my wife's birthday. And I got her a shirt that she loved so much. She showed it to me. That's a T-shirt that says, it's a quote from Martha. No one is helping. Dottie loves that shirt because she's always helping. And she doesn't complain because she's not a complainer, but she certainly has the right to complain. No one is helping, but she loves that passage. Anyway, so as they're returning to Bethany, the Lord comes by. He sees this fig tree, and he comes in and he's looking for some figs, and there's no figs, and he's mad at the tree because it doesn't have figs. And so he says, "Let no fruit grow on you ever again." And immediately the fig tree withered away. I'm not sure if immediately means right then or like on the way back the next day or whatever. I'm not really sure. But when the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, "How did the fig tree wither away so soon?" Well, the fig tree, all through the Old Testament, is a symbol of Israel. The fig tree is Israel. And Israel is withering away because Jesus has cursed it, because Jesus is mad because it's not bearing fruit, which harkens unto the first part of this passage where he goes into the temple and all they're trying to do is make a bunch of money, making a bunch of shekels instead of being a house of prayer. And so he turns everything over and drives everybody out. And then he's mad and he curses the fig tree, which is a symbol for Israel. Of course, Israel was cursed, and by AD 70, Jerusalem and the temple was completely destroyed. Israel was destroyed. The Jews were driven out. Those who, most of them died, but they were driven out into the hinterlands and the wilderness and all sorts of terrible places. It was bad. Jesus was mad. But that's another reminder there, Matthew chapter 21. All right, let's go to the saint of the day. This is Saint Germanus. I'm not sure what Saint Germanus is all about totally, but he's an interesting guy. He's a bishop of Auxerre, which is France, kind of Brittany, northern France, where the Normans launched off to destroy the wonderful Orthodox Anglo-Saxon kingdom. Around 389, he studied in Rome, did Saint Germanus, law and rhetoric. He practiced as a lawyer. He came back to France, or Gaul as they call it, and got married. He was chosen to succeed the bishop at Auxerre. His faith became deeper, his prayer more fervent. He gave away his possessions to the poor. He ate coarse barley bread only in the evening. And he often fasted for several days, and he dressed in simple monastic garb. So this guy he's a lawyer, he could be rich and living the life, and he's a bishop. He's a real ascetic kind of guy. Well, then Pope Celestine sent him to Britain in 429 to fight the Pelagian heresy. I'm not sure about the Pelagian heresy, what it's all about. I should have looked that up, but some of you nerds could probably tell me. Questions and comments appreciated. Like, share, subscribe. But during this time, he took 2 trips up to Britain. Saint Germanus took command of an army and defeated a combined force of Saxons and Picts. So the Picts are the Scottish. I think there's some Picts also in Ireland. Saxons are northern Germany, getting close to what's the other Scandinavian country up there? Denmark. And all these kind of future Britons. And Germanus, he takes an army and goes out there and defeats them. Well, there's not much else to say about Germanus's life except they make him a saint. He becomes a saint. He died in 448. So this guy who rounded up an army to fight the Picts and the Saxons, he's now a saint on the church calendar. But he was doing his bishop stuff up there in England way early, 400s. So that's kind of cool for those of us who are descended from the English. And so one more thing we want to mention today on the calendar, we also have Joseph of Arimathea. You Bible people will know that Joseph of Arimathea was the rich, I think he was part of the Sanhedrin, Pharisee probably, who one of 2 maybe that was a follower of Jesus. And when Jesus died, he decided to give up his own grave that had never been used, so it wasn't unclean. And they buried Jesus in Lazarus's tomb. The saint of the day, I'm not pulling it up, entry says that he got a winding sheet and wrapped Jesus up in the winding sheet. So you wind this big long sheet around the dead person. Well, that became the Shroud of Turin. So you can thank Joseph of Arimathea for the Shroud of Turin. But the main thing I want to mention to you from this entry about Joseph Arimathea from the church calendar, ancient church calendar, and hagiography, Lives of the Saints stories, says that he was buried in England. Joseph of Arimathea was buried in England. There are stories, histories, myths, legends, whatever you want to call them, that Joseph of Arimathea came to Britain and evangelized the British, the Angli, whatever you called it back then, in the first century. And that England and London and Angli and what's the Camelot town or castle called? I forgot, but all that stuff. I mean, there's an early little town or village, but was reached by people like Joseph of Arimathea. And we had Christians in England early on. We had actually a guy who was in Roman's court, Aristobulus, a British guy, came back in the first century, became bishop. So there was enough Christians in early Britain to have a bishop. So it's good stuff. All right, saint of the day. Love it. All right, let's get to the topic of the day, which is pre-Columbus human sacrifice, an epidemic in the Americas. Wow. So I didn't know this until one of my longtime Facebook followers, who would often comment and stuff, sent me a book that he wrote. It's called Through the Valley. It's by Raphael Bali. And this book is about what I'm talking about. It's about the fact that, the Spaniard adventurers, explorers into America were under the Christian Spanish crown. And the Spanish had been doing some good work for Christ over the centuries. You might like it. You might not like this, that, and the other, and Crusaders and all that. But the Muslims were invading Europe. And the spear point, the key point was Spain. And the Spanish kings and queens and the Christians and the whole Christian empire fought them back. And if it weren't for that, Europe would have been Muslim 1,000 years ago, at least 600 years ago. Now it's about to become Muslim. That's a whole nother story. Where's our Ferdinand and Isabella? We need one. But anyway, the Spanish crown was strong in its willingness to suffer and fight and be committed to the cause of Jesus Christ in the midst of invaders. And so these same type of people, they come to the New World way before the English. And they go into the New World, and what do they find? They find an epidemic of human sacrifice. Now, a key point of it was the Aztecs in Mexico City, but you also had the Mayan civilizations and other ones where they're sacrificing people by the millions over a series of decades and centuries. But it's estimated that like the 3 or 4 years before the Spanish got there, the Aztecs had sacrificed like 250,000 humans. Yeah. This is documented in a book that I ordered because of this book that Raphael Bali gave us. William H. Prescott, The History of the Conquest of Mexico. That was written in 1843. I got that book, solid documentation. He's got a bunch of other solid documentations in here, Through the Valley. But yeah, 250,000 human sacrifices. They believed, and they would tell their conquerors, that the sun wouldn't rise the next day if we don't have a human sacrifice. I mean, that was their belief. So at least one a day, but usually, based on these numbers, many, many a day. And so they'd have to go out into the hinterlands and round up, capture people and bring them back so they could do their human sacrifices. Many of the tribes, since they couldn't resist these militaristic invaders, they just give them a few hundred humans to go sacrifice so they wouldn't destroy their country, their tribe in North America. But it's everywhere. It's rampant. It's just terrible. And they got no solutions. What do they know? That's what's been going on forever. No one told them any different. Well, these Spanish explorers get there, and there's particularly a guy named Hernan Cortez. Hernan Cortez, a guy I wasn't really ever familiar with. This is one of the great Christian heroes in all of history. This guy said, we're going to put an end to this. He was sent out there to, God, gold, and glory, and, do the adventure stuff. But when he came across all this human sacrifice as a strong Christian, and he was very devout, he was known to be like a real devout prayer kind of guy and an evangelist on the street corners when he had his opportunity. This guy was an outgoing follower of Jesus Christ. So when he saw this human sacrifice, he just got indignant, and he says, we're going to put an end to it. And he did. He brought all his warriors, and he got into a protracted, horrible war with the Aztecs and defeated them. And the Mayans were also defeated, and all the other child sacrifice promulgators quit. And he ended the epidemic in the Americas. Hernan Cortez, a great person in history who we never hear about. Okay. What else can I tell you about this? Oh, yeah. Let me bring up a scripture for you that'll sort of help with this whole concept. Share screen. And, okay, we got the 2 Kings verses. We'll do this one. So there's a passage in 2 Kings that I think is instructive. Let's read about it. 2 Kings 3. And Moab is in a fight with Israel. Israel's in it. I think he's broken into their walled city. Now Israel's mad. They're coming back at him, and Israel's winning the war. And this king of Moab is upset about it, and he's desperate, and he's about at his wit's end. Verse 27. Then the king of Moab took his oldest son, who was to reign in his place, and offered him as a burnt offering on the wall. And great anger came upon Israel, and they departed from him and returned to their own land. So the Israelites were defeated by the king of Moab because he took his oldest son, who was going to reign in his place, a successor, and offered him as a burnt offering on the wall. Who was this to? This was to demons. This was to Satan. This was a human sacrifice. And it worked. There's a better translation, one that I like better, by the NET. There was an outburst of divine anger against Israel. So they broke off the attack and returned to their homeland. So somehow this human sacrifice thing works. That's the point I want to make to you here. It works. That's why the Aztecs did it. That's why North America had an epidemic of human sacrifice, because the people who did it saw that it worked. It will make you healthy, wealthy, and wise. Ha ha. And now we hear about it going on in our day. The Epstein files have revealed all sorts of horrible, terrible, cannibalistic human sacrifice stuff. By the way, these monsters in the Americas, they were cannibals too. They did the human sacrifice, they ate the humans. Now we're reading about cannibalism and human sacrifice in high places because of the Epstein files. Why do these people do such things? Because it works. And they've been doing it a long time. The Old Testament talks about Molech and Asherah and Baal and all these demons, idols, demons that they sacrificed to back then. Why? Because it worked. Well, when Hernan Cortez got to the Americas, he was indignant about this human sacrifice, and he explained to everyone that Jesus Christ died for us, and there no longer needs to be a sacrifice because we can be blessed and have life through him and his sacrifice, and there's no longer a need for human sacrifice. Wow, kind of a basic concept that we've kind of forgotten in our day, but because we've gotten so insane and we've gotten in love with abortion, which is another form of human sacrifice and offering up to demons to get what we need, get wealthy. If you sacrifice that child of yours, that's going to mess up your life when you're 15. Oh yeah, same old thing, been going on forever. Was going on in the Old Testament times with Moloch and Baal. It was going on pre-Columbian time and abolished by Hernan Cortez, thank God, and the godly Christian, righteous Spanish monarchs. And it's going on today. And who's going to step up and say no more? We don't believe in this stuff. So, yeah, I wanted to bring that out for you. I think I've shared everything I need to share on this subject. We're going to close with a scene from Mel Gibson's movie Apocalypto, and of course, you can get. By the way, let me bring that up here. You can get Raphael Bali's book at confideconcepts.com. See that down there? That's a comment from me. Confideconcepts.com. You can also get it on Amazon, but I think it's costs half as much at confideconcepts.com, which is Raphael Bali's website. All right, get rid of that. Let's go back again to share screen. And is this it? There we go. This is the last scene of Apocalypto, Mel Gibson's movie. He's such a genius. But this movie, the last minute of the movie Apocalypto captures in images what I'm trying to tell you here. These two guys behind him are kind of the Zelensky crew in Ukraine, you know, where they go and just grab people off the streets and take them to the front lines to be sacrificed, basically. These are a couple of guys in the Aztec Empire who've been chasing this guy for the last 15 minutes of the movie. Now he's about to get caught by these guys, and they're going to take him to one of their pyramids, and they're going to cut open his chest and reach in and grab his heart and eat his heart and do the whole cannibalistic thing. And he's just going to be another brick in the wall. And these guys are just about to get him when this happens. Let's watch it. All right, there you go. Mel Gibson does it with images. This guy's about to get sacrificed, have his heart pulled out of his chest and eaten, and become another one of those human sacrifices. And suddenly he runs up on the beach, and there's the Spanish. And they've got lots of guns and cannons and swords. and they can save this guy. And they eventually go in and conquer the Aztecs and save North America from the epidemic of human sacrifice. The story that we have not heard. Did we bring some problems to the New World? Yes. Or certainly disease and, drought and other things that caused a lot of death. We didn't do everything right. There was some cultural imperialism that could have been done better. But there was more good than bad, actually. I think that's what we're learning here. Columbus had some problems. He actually got drawn up on charges by the by the Spanish monarch, because they didn't agree with their Christian values, didn't agree with some of the things Columbus was doing. And Columbus wasn't really the representative of most of the adventurers and explorers and, leaders of the Spanish in the New World. More good than bad. Haven't heard that story, had we? Thank God for Christianity, where they come in and say, Jesus Christ has died for us. There is no longer a need for human sacrifice. Wow. These Christian, white, European leaders did such a favor to the Americas and to the Native Americans. Man, we got a lot to be thankful for there. All right. I'm running for Congress, bringing sanity to an insane world. Questions, comments? This is your last chance here. And share, and subscribe. I think this has been an important podcast, and I'm glad we did it. Let's bring in the music. Dean Arnold.